We are live now. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Ali. Welcome, Aditi. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Soul Show, Season 3, Chapter 4, where we are talking to our speaker, Aditi Chopra. She is famously the founder of Superwomen DAO and also has many accomplishments to her name. But if you look up Superwomen DAO, you will find all the things that she has done and all the impact that she is making and all the energy she brings to the Web3 industry. It is my great privilege to host her today. And this is me, Kavita Kanaparthi, your host for the day. I'm the founder and chief soul of Soulverse. Hello, Aditi. How are you today?
Hey Kavita, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I am super glad to be here, finally getting to talk to you, and looking forward to a wonderful discussion.
I'm not done introducing you, so let me give them a little bit more introduction because there is so much, that I would love for our viewers to know about you, especially
Mhm.
women, because there is so much that I think they can gain from what you're doing, and everybody out there. If you are anywhere in India, MENA region, and the Southeast Asia regions, she does a lot of, hosts a lot of events, participates in a lot of events, and the Superwomen DAO, under her leadership, has grown from 3,000 women members, founders, developers, all kinds of people, women in tech in the Web3 industry, and she has more than 20,000 people across all her social media platforms. She's not just a founder of the Superwomen DAO, but it's what she does also is educate women, equip them with whatever tools they require in the positions they are in. And she is also a TEDx speaker. She has spoken at many prestigious forums such as the TEDx, WEF, Davos, and numerous international Web3 events. I think without further, embarrassing her, as I can see she's smiling away, I will pass on the mic to Aditi to give a little bit more introduction about herself, speak about herself, and what probably start off with what inspired her to start Superwomen DAO.
Got it. Thank you so much. You make me feel all smart, and this person is bringing a lot of impact, so I'm gonna have to keep up to that promise. But I think my journey entering Web3 hasn't been like most people. A lot of people were inspired or intrigued by what this new space sort of entailed and all of that. For me, I was already building sort of a startup in the femtech space, which is female health, and I'd had a setback there, right? Where I was building it for all the right reasons, but just didn't have the right network or the education in the medical space. And during that time, I thought, okay, I don't want to repeat this mistake. So I want to be working with a lot of founders to really understand what it takes to build a startup right. And in that process, I so happened, because I'd done a lot of community work in the startups that I'd worked previously in fintech at FamPay or Carva and all of those. Um, I thought, okay, let me start with growth in community, because there were very few people at that point who were looking community as the space as it is right now. Given the platforms, there was Discord at this point. At that point, Telegram was still something that most people would think of as shady or just as a bad ripoff of WhatsApp and stuff. But I had been doing that a lot at FamPay, so I'd sort of gotten a good grasp of what really means to run ambassador programs or to really look at interactive events and stuff. And that's how I started, uh, looking at growth in community and consulting a couple of founders, being in proximity with them in their day-to-day lives. And
Mhm,
at that point, Web3 was really picking up in 2021, and a
mhm,
couple of folks from Web3 companies, a few really good ones, Mesha at that point, Morales, they reached out, hey, why don't you consult? And I'm like, cool, why should, I should. I'd already worked with a couple of Web2 startups by that time. And to me, it just felt like, hey, I'm doing the same thing here again in terms of technicality. It's just better pay. and more authority, like a little bit more autonomy in what I do. So my reason was very transactional to enter Web3. But when I
Mhm.
did, and was able to keep up, I learned about the promise that this space holds. And then I realized,
Mhm.
okay, there's this whole movement where some of the smartest folks in the industry are taking a bet in this space, and that's when I felt I should learn more about it. I should open my own. I should create my own wallet. Really try to trade and see if it actually
Mhm.
holds that promise of economic growth that
Mhm.
crypto at that point was being sold for. And when I
Mhm.
did, and when I got into my own education, I realized that there were hardly any women at that point, right? And not just
Mhm.
about my folks. Where I would, yeah, I would not come across women who were
Mhm.
building and who were growing and that. But there were a lot of women who were interested, who just
Mhm.
wanted to get started. There were very few who had gotten a start and were already in this space. And
Mhm.
that's when I just put out tweets, why don't a couple of all the rage back then, and somebody just, hey, we can just call this WhatsApp group Super. I don't even know who coined the word Super Women, but stuck to it and was born.
Aditi?
Yeah, I
Hi.
am
Lost
actually
you
able to
for a
see
second.
you.
Yeah, just lost you there for a second. Sorry about that. Can you hear me? Hi, I'm
Hey,
here. Can you hear
am
me?
I audible?
Yes, you are
Yeah, I
now.
was able
Yeah,
to hear you. And
yeah.
okay,
Go ahead. Yeah, I think we lost the network for a quick second. We're back.
got it. Yeah, so that's what that really was just about it. When I learned and I saw that, hey, this space is not all the scam that a lot of people are calling it to be. It's just that it's
Hmm.
new, and that's why a lot of people are confused about it. So if I truly want to be in this space, and as
Hmm.
they say, right, new category or industry is created, you cannot grow in a silo in it. You need other people who are invested in growing that space, and that's when in the long haul it yields value for you. So that's
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said something about, you didn't think that it was such a scam. And there are people, that is the rap that I think crypto, so to speak, and some of the meme coins and some of the scams that brought to Web3 space. The Web3 is not all crypto. And and that is the education that was required and is still required at this time and great work that you're doing, bringing education into this whole platform of that you're running today, the Superwomen DAO. Tell us a little about the education initiatives that you have taken up and why you felt that this kind of based the role based mentorship or the role based education is very much required for women in the Web3 industry.
got it. Um, so one thing that still there is, we do think that we still don't know what that exact one initiative for Superwomen is that we should stick by and then scale on. Right, in the
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years of building Superwomen, we've tried a lot of formats of
Mm-hmm.
sort of putting out that education and awareness, and
Mm-hmm.
we've learned everything, so it's still very much initial and experimental for us. And to
Mm-hmm.
talk about what sort of initiatives we've done, we have done webinars. We have worked with different companies and projects in the Web3 space trying to create a curriculum, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the idea was that, hey, I know only about few aspects of this industry, and
Mm-hmm.
who's like, there's nobody better than a founder of a project to actually come and talk about that aspect. Even
Mm-hmm.
just the curriculum designing of how do we do those webinars, how many, at what point would we say that, hey, now this person knows the basics of Web3, and what are we calling the basics, because this is such a fast
Yeah.
moving industry. that
Yeah.
when we first started with the webinars, there was no deepen, there was no RWA narrative, there was no chain extraction. The
Right.
narratives and the technologies that were there at that point, DAOs and NFTs and all, they're all
Mhm.
gone. And even what we have right now, they might also just go away, because at one point we may not talk about the tech of Web3 as much upfront. We'll probably talk about the applications, the use cases, and how it makes lives easy. So
Mhm.
we've done a bit of that. When we started, we also looked at, because I had a small network of VC friends through my previous consulting firm. I thought, why don't we do this? That we figure out some promising women founders and builders in the Web3 space, sort of
Mhm.
do a little bit of diligence on them. And then
Mhm.
once we've done with our diligence, connect them
Mhm.
with these VCs and,
Mhm.
explore sort of a carry model.
Mhm.
Whenever any person who's scouting a project for a VC firm has the
Mhm.
option, to discuss sort of a carry. And we were like,
Mhm.
if we find the right women founder and they get funded by this VC, just for
Mhm.
scouting that person, we could get a carry in Super Women Treasury. That way, we
Mhm.
could keep growing our initiative and keep helping, a firm find a good founder and a good founder find the relevant investors. That seemed like a win-win. But then, of
Mhm.
course, there were a few challenges in the very start of it where we realized that there wasn't, in all honesty, as much quality,
Mhm.
coming in at that point when we were experimenting this. So that was another format that we looked at. The
Mhm.
third was just collaboration, because
Mhm.
initially I was lucky enough to have created a small network and network intelligence in just, at least in the India and Dubai network. And I was like,
Right.
why don't I just make this community active and then help with just connecting them with the right people? Because at that point, at least in 21, and it's not solved yet as well, but in
Mhm.
20, we like to find a right person. Hey, who could help me with marketing investment? Because we're not doing the standard performance marketing. We're not looking at SEO. There's no
Mhm.
print in this space. So to find those relevant and right people was also a challenge. So I thought, hey,
Right.
let's help women with whatever little network we have. So that was something that we did. 24 sort of collaboration through the community, sharing resources. I compiled a set of resources of all, different types of content pieces. Say if a beginner is really coming in and they want to know what blockchain, what crypto is all about, and why do we even need this in the first place, that
Mhm.
was been largely put under documentation and collaboration.
Mhm.
Then came up events. I'll also answer the second question that you posed, that why do we
Mhm.
need a gender-based initiative for women in this space? That's because I personally realize that sometimes, and most of us, right, we work better in a space. We find our work more enjoyable if we have
Mhm.
a few friends, in
Mhm.
this. If people that I aspire to work with are my
Mhm.
friends, I'm more likely to actually go and talk about that thing. Um, for example, I have friends, PB, who had started OG Club DAO and who was one of the reasons and the first sponsor for that little Super Women event that I did. I realized
Right.
that because he was a friend in the crypto space, we would
Right.
often end up talking a lot about this space. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't have consciously taken the time out or the effort to go and research and read up on so many things. So just by
Mhm.
the virtue of having a friend in this space, I was sort
Mhm.
of more plugged in than I would have been consciously. And that led
Right.
me to realizing that, even if I want to see more women in this space, then
Mhm.
before skill development or opportunity creation, have to
Mhm.
look at helping them find a few friends. If they have
Absolutely.
friends, they're more likely to talk about it. Their interest probably peaks more, and they have more opportunities to get connected with. That's why that
Absolutely.
whole gender-based, and then we all know
Yeah.
that women would feel a lot more comfortable becoming friends with women first, than just
Mhm.
enter gender industry, which is ideal. But then you need to
Mhm.
start there. So events was the like women only events is what we started with, and now
Mhm.
we're at a point where we do women only and mixed gender events. Just in last December, a month ago, we tried out this new format of hosting a non-tech women only hacker house, which hasn't
Okay.
happened in India at least so far, and
Mhm.
globally also probably only 2 to 3 people have done non-tech hacker houses. because it's very
Okay.
difficult to say that, hey, in this period of 7 days or 48 hours,
Mm-hmm.
value has come out. Because when you're creating a product, you know if that code works or not. But with
Yeah.
marketing strategies, partnership strategies, community campaigns, how do you say that without trying them out? But we did
Right.
see significant success and some tangible metrics to say that, hey, it worked out. So going
Mm-hmm.
forward, that's the plan. Try out all of these different models and expand more upon the non-tech side um, of Web3 for women.
That's fantastic. Hearing you and listening to all the stories you're telling, here, it reminds me of the days when any of us, when we have started out, we just wanted someone to hear our crazy idea, and we wanted to speak for hours. And it's almost hard to find somebody, especially if they didn't understand anything that you were talking about, to actually even come back and ask you a question. And how would you grow from there, right? And if nobody's asking you any questions, that you're not thinking, you're not digging deeper, you're not going out there and doing the research. And what you're doing, Aditi, is absolutely required and commendable and honorable. Is for you to say that I have found a challenge when I was building something, and I felt that somebody else should not face it. And very few think about making a building something like that. While it is strategic, it is also educational, and the combination of both shows the way your passion is driving this entire work that you're doing. And my appreciation goes right up there for you on this front. And I will look forward to partnering with you and having conversations with you down the road.
100%.
That will be my pleasure. And being a woman founder myself, I find it sometimes find myself in a whole big hall, not just a room of men. And it's just like I stick out like a sore thumb. And it's the only thing that makes me interesting is damn that sore thumb, not the brains, nor what I have to say. And they kind of slot me into women entrepreneur. I'm like, that's not all I want to talk about. I really want to talk about tech, right? And I think that does a whole lot of injustice to a lot of women, and women supporting women is going to change that and have a measurable impact. And definitely appreciate what you're doing. And so I wanted to ask you about all that you're doing, but you gave me a whole lot of all the things that you're trying, and a combination of all of that is going to be extremely, I would say, impactful over the next few years to come. Pardon me. And one thing that you mentioned that I wanted to ask you, sorry,
It's the weather.
it's the weather. I all over the country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've been
Um,
Bangalore, the hill station that it has become at this point.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you the DAO aspect of, the Superwomen DAO. How is that structured?
So when we started, I had zero clue about, call me naive at that point, but I just picked up the word DAO. When we
Okay.
initially, what we started was just a community, right? Because in
Okay.
my mind, DAO is synonymous if there is a multi-sig wallet, as in there's
Mm,
no single entity that's taking the decision around the treasury, the finances, and the workings of the community. And then
mm-hmm,
there is that every member,
mm-hmm,
whatever extent of their contribution be, has a say in how the community operates, which is the governance votes.
right.
So when we started, we literally were just across Telegram, WhatsApp, Twitter, and just community platforms, whatever would just help us getting people together. We are not
Mm-hmm,
constituted any of this. We don't know how to incorporate, because to this day there are very few. There's hardly any clarity on what a DAO incorporation looks like, where you could do it, like
right.
how you have Delaware Corp, or startup incorporation, company incorporation. A
Mm-hmm,
few months into Super Women, we learned that, okay, the Wyoming, which is in US, has come up with some sort of a DAO incorporation. We
mm-hmm,
tried that. I got a couple of things in the works, paid whatever needed us to call get us a DAO, to get us
Mm-hmm.
called to be a DAO, whatever domains we needed to constitute that. Then came, hey, how do we really structure this in a platform format, right? There was this
Mm-hmm.
startup at that point called DAO Lens, which was
Mm-hmm.
building a platform and technology for you to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate into a DAO, for you to have all of those little elements that you need, right? Snapshot, which was all the rage at that point, which would
Right.
let you
Right.
quote and let you capture what's happening in the community, the entire discourse.
Mm-hmm.
We got that. Then before getting the governance votes and figuring on the next step, which was a token for the community, we thought, hey, why
Mm-hmm.
don't we try something simple? Just
Mm-hmm.
try to use a platform to get votes on
Mm-hmm.
everything that we do. And in all
Mm-hmm.
honesty, what we saw was that theoretically everyone was very excited to have a say in how things work. But
Mm-hmm.
because at that point, so many people had joined multiple DAOs, and myself included,
Mm-hmm.
um, I felt like after a point, after the small initial gestation period, people didn't have the interest to actually go through proposals or propose something or actually come in and exercise their skin in the game in terms of voting. Very
Right.
few people wanted to do that. We still have that multi-sig wallet. There are four of us co-members who have stuck from the start. A lot of contributors came in and then they found jobs and they moved out and all. But the
Mm-hmm.
whole voting mechanism never really worked out in the way that ideally it should have. That, hey, this is community driven and people are participating in this because I realized that most people wanted to have things set up, initiatives be there, and they would just participate in that ready initiative. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Instead of participating. Largely the DAOs in that period, which is I'm talking about late 21 and early 22, that were working were investment DAOs, where the actual
Mm-hmm.
money was in and it mattered. Hey, where my money is getting invested, or which
Mm-hmm.
NFT are we buying with the money that we have pooled together, which was like, what Meta Cartel and all of those DAOs were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we went about it. Now, of course, in that time duration, we realized that hey, we don't really need that DAO incorporation because whatever those technical tenets were required, that process we weren't very actively seeing, especially
Mm-hmm.
for the kind of work that we were doing. We are better fitting, like it's fitting to call us a community than a DAO because we didn't
Yeah.
decide on doing a token. I don't think even at this date that we're big enough. We have that critical mass to do a token because once you launch a token, and it doesn't pump, it dumps, and there goes your credibility. You might as
Right.
well have a much better job as just being a community in this space than have a token, because then you've attached all the financial and incentives to the work that you do, and to
Mm-hmm.
expect every member of the community to really work through it would have required me to look at
Mm-hmm.
this at the time. But there were a couple of things going in were happening for me. I still had my firm while I
Mm-hmm.
was building Super Women. It got acquired 6 months into building Super Women, so that
Mm-hmm.
really became possible. And now, when I'm thinking of it, new models of DAO incorporation have emerged in Russell Kema Rag DAO. Their
Right.
incorporation methodology being the most robust of them all. I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it again, but I want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that I have a strong reason to really do it and not just some sort of a forced way to introduce token mechanics because I never
Right.
started this for financial incentive for myself.
Right.
And to
Mm-hmm.
this day, I still don't want to have it because it's given me more, in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
networking brand for myself and the opportunities. So yeah, that's where we are on that.
Yeah, I hear you. And the forcing of the token is something, unless what the work that you're doing, there's no reason for the token. I mean, financial incentives aside, unless the whole community feels and holds the token, actually, like you mentioned, and right now people have not taken, have fallen off the radar, though they are, they're not exercising their rights and they're not exercising, just because we introduce a token, that might not change eventually, and that the whole thing might fall apart. And then the interest that they actually have in the actual work that you do can probably diminish. And a good call on that, and I would say, and whatever comes in the future, all the best to you on that front. Um, Quickly, in terms of the work that you have done, right? I've seen and I follow some of the work that you have done. How was your experience at the World Economic Forum that you have recently been to, and what was it that the work that you had done there? I've seen that you have been with Mr. Shinde and all of that. So could you give us a little peek into that?
Yeah, sure. So, when I was telling you that I had a consulting firm where we were working on growth, community, largely full stack marketing functions, growth functions,
Mm-hmm.
I got the opportunity to consult MMRDA on
Mm-hmm.
MMRDA and one of their joint venture partners on a new smart city that is being planned for Navi Mumbai. It's still in the works. It's a multi-decade project to really have a
Mm-hmm.
3,000 acres of land come up. And I got
Mm-hmm.
that opportunity to consult. That was happening on one side. And then when this whole Web3 movement was picking up in 2022, and I was
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough to be sort of at the forefront of it in
Mm-hmm.
India at that point. And I got this opportunity to collaborate. I got invited to World Economic Forum and collaborate on hosting an event there with
Mm-hmm.
for some of the front running projects at that point in the Web3 space. A few are, few still are, and
Mm-hmm.
a few sort of fizzled out in the whole new narratives and new tech and everything coming up. So that's where I was, and it just so happened that the two things that I was doing at that point, which is sort of consulting this company on how to look at stakeholder management. So this was a JV with MMRDA and a couple of other partners. They
Mm-hmm.
want now that they're looking at a smart city, a truly a smart
Mm-hmm.
city level on the way that China and Korea has come up with certain models. They also wanted to
Mm-hmm.
look at a Web3 sandbox, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
I picture. And when I did that Super Women event, I realized that I got to connect with a lot of stellar and industry leaders at World Economic Forum, and was fortunate enough that when the MOM for this city was being signed with the was being signed by the CM of Maharashtra, my
Mm-hmm.
contribution in terms of the structure of what a box could look like for an Indian state, for a city, and largely for the Indian populace was recognized, and they wanted me to be one of the presenters, to actually be there and present what I'd done
Mm-hmm.
with Superman and why I might be the right person, or at least a suitable person
Mm-hmm.
to look at what a Web3 sandbox could look like. So that's what Davos was all about for me. We did an event where we had a couple of stellar folks and projects from the industry, from the NTR Capital, Frontier Wallet, BitsCrunch, all of these projects joining in as sponsors and speakers. And
Mm-hmm.
then that also had this opportunity to present my Web3 sandbox idea for this new smart city called Orange Smart City that's being planned in Navi Mumbai. So yeah, that's why I was, in that picture with Mr. Shinde when that MOM was signed, because that sandbox was a small part of the larger city plan.
That's great. Actually, it's encouraging to hear that Web3 sandboxes are being thought about. There are a lot of them that different cities in the country right now are not thinking about Web3 ecosystems, startup ecosystems with Web3 technologies as the underlying the foundation and all of that. That is very encouraging. And in terms of implementation and accessibility to all of these things, where do you think in terms of what we see across the globe and what we see within India, what do you think the access to these services looks like today? Whether it is, in terms of the jobs, in terms of the platforms, in terms of founderships, tools that are required. Where do you think the sandboxes are at this time for women, especially?
So I think, of course, in terms of certain things, India is way ahead of its global counterparts. And in
Mm-hmm.
certain things, we could have done things better. And that's a very personal opinion. Like if we'd been more proactive with regulations, right? Because even some of the biggest challenges that I faced when I was trying to work with the mentors in this space and all is the lack of regulation. Like, how do you look
Mm-hmm.
at your Web3 sandbox in partnership with a government entity, when there are no
Mhm.
regulations to define what is right, what is wrong, and at what point would you say that, hey, this is what the startup or the
Yeah.
sandbox slash accelerator looks like?
Yeah.
Because we don't have any of those metrics defined, any of those frameworks in place.
Mhm.
So we look at different types of things here. I think for traders, now with the FIU framework in place and with the organization behind it actually looking into it actively, that hey,
Mhm.
all of these
Mhm.
global exchanges that are coming into India are sort of ensuring customer interest and their protection in terms of KYC. I mean, we can all, as people, hate KYC as much as we want, and I've been in the DeFi space, and it does seem all the way like limiting our freedom. But
Mhm.
having worked a little bit into the depth of it, I do think that some of these frameworks in place also ensure customer protection, which is extremely important if we want this, if we want the crypto, to be a long game, and that for retail users, which is largely the chunk that we say that hey, we want to onboard the 1 billion people, for them to
Mhm.
get. I mean, if there's no trust, not everybody comes with that experimental mindset and maybe disposable, wealth to just experiment
Yeah.
with something which doesn't ensure them that safety. So I think
Mhm.
that's one thing where I think now we're picking up on the regulations really bit. There were other countries, Singapore for that matter, that actually was
Mhm.
very proactive about it, and they did benefit from
Mhm.
this. As we can all see, is benefiting tremendously, becoming the
Yep.
global epicenter for the crypto industry. And now, with the Trump administration and the way he's been pro crypto, we're looking at significant positive movements to happen in the US as well. Now, in terms of
Just on
jobs,
that front, just today, I just wanted to jump in a little bit before we move to another topic. Just today, we heard that Joe Biden had signed into law the digital identity, regulations. Uh, Good things. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just wanted to add that to um, the U.S. making strides as well.
no, absolutely. I mean, I think regulation was one big thing that was stopping a lot of companies, because when you look at the entry for most retail folks in crypto, that won't happen through technology. They're not
Hmm.
degens that will immediately start looking at yield farming or farming for airdrops and
Right.
solving. They'd want to buy into these tokens that would give them quick financial returns, which is
Hmm.
largely the promise. And then that's where a lot of exchanges were limited,
Hmm.
because all we had in India, at least on 1 year or 1.5 year ago, were central exchanges. And if you don't have
Hmm.
regulations for central exchanges, you cannot ensure smooth working for it. So that's
Hmm.
it. Where I think we're really picking up well now, because my experience at CoinD6 also told me, when I would see the team thinking about how CoinD6 expands and how CoinD6 serves its user in India, all of these
Hmm.
things formed the core of
Hmm.
whatever was being built there. In terms of founders, I think where we have a really strong upper hand is our development core. uh,
Hmm.
Look at any big projects, any small projects out there, you will find somebody in the dev or the devrel team, who's either based out of India or remotely connected to India, or is actually hiring developers that are based out of India, because of course economically it works well. And then,
Hmm.
given the global nature of this industry, now folks are not limited to, hey, that
Yeah.
I could hire from this place, because we as an industry have been, now call it, like, we could be grateful for COVID for that, but we've been remote from day one. So that
Right.
way, I don't really think that, in that perspective, there's sort of a difference between where as a country we have been and where other people have been. And when you look
Hmm.
at founders, I think yes, um,
Hmm.
we still don't have very native Indian accelerators. There were a few that were building sort of subsidiaries for India. I think Graviton was one of the earliest ones that was trying to do something. Now we have Hedron at FC that's trying to do something out of Dubai, but it's largely being built by Indians in the space. And also a lot of ecosystems themselves. The L1, L2 ecosystems have started their own little venture initiatives or accelerator initiatives where they're building these things. So that's a
Yeah.
great thing that has only happened in the last 8 to 12 months. Wasn't
Hmm.
there before. there was always support in terms of foundership as a community, in terms of what Superwomen was trying to do, in terms of what Phoenix Guild was trying to do for the women devs in this space and all. But there weren't long-term models. When I say long-term models, what I want to say is that, hey, you're doing a hackathon, there's an interested developer who comes in, builds something, but then
Yeah.
point they were just grant hunting. There was no long-term program to keep them motivated to keep building. There was not a incentive design was not done in such a way that they would continue working after that, that winning that hackathon, virtual or IRL, to actually go into sort of a mode where they're also getting incubated, when there's an accelerator, then there's a venture model, all of those things. Now those are really coming up, and I think they are largely global. Indian focus comes into place when we're looking at regional network intelligence, which all of these
Right.
community partners are able to provide. So I think there we have a strength in terms of developers, in terms of the founder quality that's coming up. And for
Mm-hmm.
women, um, I think women also can't just grow in a women community. So you need, so that's why with Superwomen also, when we started, we were women only community. And then
Mm-hmm.
course of time, we became women focused but gender neutral. Because
Mm-hmm.
wherever we want to get all the knowledge, all the resources, all the education, mentorship, wherever it's coming from, we want to
Mm-hmm.
advance more women in this space, but not saying that, hey, only women can help women advance in this space. Everyone can and everyone should. So that's
Absolutely.
what's been happening. And with Sanctuary, this initiative that I was telling you that we just did for the first time at India Blockchain Week 2024,
Mm-hmm.
we're doing more of those experiments because I've personally realized that when you put women or anybody else in more intensive environments, intensive when I say is that for 48 hours, they actually have to come up with a campaign. They actually have to go and talk to the users. They have to participate in that problem solving. It's not just an event where they can look at coming in, having a good time, and networking. So those are the models that are now coming up, and would want to expand more on that. And if at point
Mm-hmm.
we're able to reach where we know, hey, we have enough resources to support an accelerator of sorts, would love to do that. But I think there are a few organizations with, Chifi with its virtual course, and a
Mm-hmm.
couple others that already are building for that format. And by
Mm-hmm.
next, those names sort of will be household, at least amongst the crypto world.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, I'm just listening. I'm absorbing all that you're saying. Um, and I'm sure there are so many people out there smiling away, and I'm like, they want to, your information is being asked for in the comments and stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to talk to you after this. And thank you for sharing a whole bunch of stuff that even I'm, excited to hear and absorb, and probably take it to my whiteboard someday. Uh, so I want to ask you the question I'll be so much interested in. What are the strategic approaches that one should take to expand the community? And I see, all the, and you're not just using words. And listeners, if you are, if you're here today joining us to hear Aditi speak, um, the depth of the knowledge that she has in the community building is absolutely real, and is half the times you hear people talking about these things and using the keywords, the buzzwords, and she hardly used any of those, and she's given a lot of alpha, and that is another buzzword, right? Somebody would speak like that to you, and then you would think they know everything. But speaking to Aditi gives me an insight that she is a woman of substance, and absolutely speaking the honest truths about what the industry is all about, how the industry is changing so rapidly. Even when I came into the industry 6 to 7 years ago, my understanding of what blockchain is and what the Web3 is and what all of that is so rapidly has changed. I'm learning every day. I keep buying every book I see on Amazon to learn and to read. And here is a chance to find, and talk to somebody who will. I'm going to recommend something to her at the end of this session today. But right now, I want to really know. So, Aditi, if you could tell us a few pointers about the strategic approach one can take to expand their community.
Got it. Honestly, every community is different, right? We may think that, hey, the objective of a community is to sort of create a deeper bond and belongingness with our users, because when you're looking at social media, you're essentially, it's a one-way conversation that I'm having with an audience. And community is
Right.
that space which helps me create a deeper relationship with my token holders, or with my product users, or with just members of
Mm-hmm.
a community. It helps me create better feedback loops. It helps me create those initial evangelizers, right? People
Mm-hmm.
who will go and shout at the top of their voice every single time a
Mm-hmm.
project or a company that they really feel connected to is being talked about. Then it's
Mm-hmm.
not just about some transactional incentives. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
community does. So the first thing when we look at, hey, how do we grow a community, is to think of it not as your audience, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is something that a lot of projects have done, and I have done it myself. And at
Yeah.
times when I actually do get into that rabbit hole, and then I have to remind myself that, hey, this can't be a one-way conversation. You cannot just be putting out updates there and just expecting members of your community to go raid on a Twitter post, which is something that a lot of people do. Um,
Yeah.
I have believed that you have to have sort of a giver mentality as a community admin, moderator, builder, whatever you are. And then you
Mm-hmm.
also need to have that as a thesis in whatever framework you build. That, hey,
Mm-hmm.
what are just the top three things, or maybe even just top two, that I can
Mm-hmm.
provide, that these users really need, and that I
Mm-hmm.
should provide them. Of course, I'm not here saying that, hey, people do want to get a lot more financial rewards. The first thing that they would want to ask is, hey, give us better airdrops, give us larger airdrops. But you also don't get swayed into that, but realize what is the real problem. And me as a builder, how can I solve for that? In
Mm-hmm.
terms of strategic, when these are just some mental frameworks to keep in mind, right? Very umbrella, very foundational frameworks that I keep in mind, whether it be Superwomen or building CoinD6's trader community, or Octo's developer community, or building communities for the projects that I worked with through my consulting firm. In terms of strategic initiatives, uh, it's a space. I always say that anyone who enters Web3 should enter as a
Mm-hmm.
community leader, because it doesn't require specific skills. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
require for you to have specific or deep knowledge of certain platforms. You can learn
Mm-hmm.
about Discord and Telegram very quickly if you're just a smart and dedicated person. It's not like performance marketing or financial analysis and modeling and all of those. Um, when you do that, you have to look at, hey, events is a vertical, partnerships
Mm-hmm.
is a vertical, engagement is a vertical, which also constitutes giveaways and campaigns and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Ambassadors is a vertical, affiliate is a vertical. So there are all of these standard verticals that fall into community, which in my mind should always be hygiene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either you know that, hey, I'm going to do these initiatives in a very standard way, then they become your hygiene business as usual initiatives. Or if
Mm-hmm.
you can come up with methodologies basis, hey, what would really excite my users, right?
Right.
Airdrop and point systems have become household in the crypto marketing playbook. But when Bonk was doing it, which actually made the whole airdrop bit so mainstream, for Solana,
Mm-hmm.
came up with the fact that, hey, we have to reward our community, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually we want them to become these token buyers or token
Mm-hmm.
holders, do the activity in our ecosystem. So why don't we get them to do this activity and give them this promise of tokens initially itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that thinking that you know to figure out where, and these sort of innovative initiatives, now they are which put you on the map and make you stand out and sort of get you the linear growth. So you have to
Right.
have good balance of these hygiene initiatives. And if you
Mm-hmm.
are sort of tweaking these hygiene initiatives, say an ambassador program, if you're not going a very standard way, you're creating a very focused ambassador program like we did with CoinD6 Maxis, where we said that, hey, there are a lot of people out there on Twitter who want to write about crypto, who want to grow their brand. They just don't
Mm-hmm.
know what to write about. They are not in touch with the projects who could incentivize them for writing
Mm-hmm.
those, tear down threads about those projects. So why don't we do this? So that
Mm-hmm.
ambassador program was very focused and crafted only for creators on Twitter and content writers on Twitter specifically. And when you're
Okay.
doing initiatives like those, that's where
Mm-hmm.
large a chunk of your resources or your bandwidth should be going into it. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing that I really focus on a lot is from the day you start building your community, you
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure that you have a lot of partnerships in place, partnerships with other relevant projects, non-competing projects, partnerships
Mm-hmm.
with other communities, and in a way that it also benefits them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not talking about the logo x logo partnerships, which doesn't really end up benefiting anybody, because with
Right.
those logos you don't happen to end up providing a lot of access to whatever initiative the project is doing, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
benefit the community because you just get slapped as a logo at an event or something. So when I say partnerships, what that means is that there's significant value, resources, bandwidth that's
Mm-hmm.
being put, into partnership, which all of those collaborated and co-marketing quests are a great example of. If you go
Mm-hmm.
on Galaxy, which is the biggest quest platform in Web3, and
Mm-hmm.
Quest is a great community marketing framework in Web3 industry right now, you will see
Right.
that some of the quests that have worked really well is when two non-competing projects came together, and they had the members of this one project's community try out the other project's products or whatever offerings, DApp, exchanges, wallets, whatever they had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very productive way of getting your communities mingle. There's
Mm-hmm.
right there's right incentives in the place, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
harming your own community because they're only learning something new on top
Mm-hmm.
of it. They're solving something together. It's fun, it's gamified, it's not forced. So those
Mm-hmm.
sort of initiatives, and this could literally be a long, long answer, long discussion. Happy to answer any questions that anybody has on how do we look at strategic initiatives, because like I said, every community is different. The way moderators and admins build it is also very
Mm-hmm.
different, right? I am the kind of person who does a lot of things ad hoc.
Ex-
Plan a lot, but I build my community more serendipitously. Some people build it with a lot of, the sort of processes, and I only
Mm-hmm.
enable processes once I know that, hey, now it's at a stage where it needs to be automated, because I've always been a believer of serendipity and a little bit of informality in
Right.
communities.
And that works for some, for some of the communities, that works very well, depending on what kind of product you're building. That works. And initially, a lot of us do that, before we set the processes in place. And, again, like I said, anyone who wants to reach out, I think her Instagram ID has been dropped in the chat, so you guys can reach out to her, or her Twitter handle is Aditi Chopra X, and you can reach out to her, and there is a lot to learn. And I'm going to do the same after this. Pick up brains a little bit more, because there's a question here that talks about, we're not going to probably bore her right now about how to do this internationally and all of that, but we can reach out to her, post the show, and ask her more questions, probably join her, like you said, probably join her community as it goes. And there's a lot to learn from her there as well. Ajiti, here we come to the segment of the show where I'm going to ask you a few rapid questions, rapid fire segments. I cannot not ask you these. Ali, our production manager, is going to have a word with me afterwards if I don't ask you these. So, in one sentence, what's the biggest myth about women in Web3?
That a lot of us are looking for to be the token entrants and token promoters of the industry, but it's
Mm-hmm.
actually not true. Most of us are just being looking to get recognized for the merit that we bring. And I mean, as women in this
Absolutely.
space, we want the conversation about women in this space to just go away. There shouldn't be any women Web3 founders or female Web3
Yeah.
founders.
Yeah, I hear you, and I'm totally with you. And if you guys are hearing us, that's we don't want to be called the women founders. We're just the founders, and we're just entrepreneurs, and we're just creators. And thank you very much for that. What's the one must-have skill for anyone in Web3?
Being able to, yap. When I say yap, is someone who just who is not too scared of not putting out their thoughts, whether it be on Twitter in a virtual environment or whether it be at an event. Because what's the worst
Mm-hmm.
that could happen? You will just get proven wrong and you learn something. But I
Right.
have not seen a lot of people who are introverts really succeed because this is a small industry, right? And
Mm-hmm.
everybody's out there looking for their fair share of recognition in this
Mm-hmm.
space. One skill that I think everyone should have is to be able to talk and discuss and put their thoughts out there, whatever they think, and be open to learning. Okay.
Absolutely. And to my team who's listening, you heard her. It's time for you all to talk about things. Name your proudest life achievement in one word.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
In one word, I don't know how you're going to do it, but name your proudest life achievement in one word.
Superwoman Dow. I think we've spoken about it enough, and it is actually, if not the proudest, one of the top three things that I feel I've done um, and have created a difference, at least in the life of few women that I know personally.
Absolutely. Complete this in a single word. Web3 is.
A new technology that is actually, oh, I had to do it in one word. He is omnipresent at this
Omnipresent.
yeah,
Okay.
in terms of the tech ecosystem. We just have to make it appear so to retail users as
Okay. If you could change one thing about Web3 education instantly, what would it be?
well. Okay. I think taking away the idea of, I can't put this in one word, but I will say that, a lot of focus on just the blockchain technology, some of those things, which is cryptography and all of that. I think for education to really become more attractive to people, we have to
Mhm.
start with the applications and use cases and then deep dive into the technology. A lot of courses, a lot of education paradigms there are doing that, where they're just overdosing people on a lot of tech jargons and words. We need to take
Mhm.
those jargons away.
Take it a notch down. I agree. I agree. And before I ask you one more question, what was your longest hackathon?
That I have personally done, it
Hmm.
wasn't even in Web3. It was actually in the food sustainability space.
Okay.
In Web3, the longest hackathon that I've been a part of was 7 days. I mean, 7 days of IRL working together. It
Okay.
was in Bali last year. Otherwise, I mean, it was a month-long hackathon that we had to work on virtually. We didn't end up winning anything, but yeah,
Okay. So the question is, during your longest hackathon, how many cups of coffee would you have consumed?
zero. I have never had coffee in my life. I am a through and through chai
Oh,
person. Yeah. I mean, if you ask me the number of teas, I would have to
number of
get
teas,
another
then
cup of
let me
tea.
just say, how many number of teas did you have?
Easily 100 plus because I was ODing on tea at that point and subpar tea because in Bali we didn't even get like really good tea. But
Uh-huh.
Girnar was a godsend at that point. That Indian tea Girnar premix of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Easy 100. And that question was so stressful. I'm gonna have to get another cup of tea for myself.
I'm sorry to stress you out, so let's go easy on you in the next few minutes. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just so funny that I have to ask you how many cups of tea or coffee you had in the longest hackathon and stress you out on that front. But ladies and gents, if you have any questions for Aditi, I'm happy to ask her on your behalf. Um, yes, somebody says ambassadors, airdrops, and communicating with the community is absolutely important, and it is to a great extent. But one thing, I've also noticed is Aditi, maybe you could give me your take on it. With a lot of these tokens that are doing airdrops, half of them don't design those airdrops well, and they don't realize that overloading the community with airdrops is a sure shot, suicide, right? When the token opens up. And, what would your advice be to somebody who is going crazy with airdrops, not designing the tokenomics properly, and, just taking whatever are the buzzwords. Okay, let's do the airdrops, let's build the community, let's do this, let's do that, not thinking through it. How would you encourage them to kind of really properly take a step towards the real ways to encourage community building?
So doing an airdrop is it's not an exact science, right? Nobody
Mm-hmm.
can say that, hey, if you do these 10 things right, your
Mm-hmm.
airdrop's going to be successful. Because if that was there, there would be these tokenomic and airdrop agencies that would be raking in millions, if not billions already. It's not an
Right.
exact science, because whether your airdrop performs well or not, because I'm sure Starknet did a lot of research. They are a major ecosystem, and their airdrop didn't really sail through well. And then there are
Mm-hmm.
these smaller projects, like Hyperliquid, which have fared so well. The
Mm-hmm.
one thing, and these are sort of intangibles that you have to keep in mind. I will not get into the math and the tangibles of it, because that's a major tokenomics exercise, right? Which requires you to really understand, hey, what is the right market cap that we have to reach? How would we do the market making of it? What sort of critical mass do we have to reach? At what point do KOLs get introduced into our airdrops? At what point are we looking at central exchange rates or wallet rates and all of that, right? Because every
Mm-hmm.
airdrop you've seen have hinged on one of these initiatives more than the other, right? With Rainbow Wallet, they went all out on the MetaMask wallet rate, where they said that, hey, if you move your money from MetaMask, you're eligible for our airdrop. But then similarly, if it was a financial product, they were all about, hey, how long and how much money can you stake on our platform? That would give you more better airdrops and all. So it's not an exact science, but you do have to follow a rigorous checklist of, hey, that you're ensuring everything is getting check marked, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of safety, security, in terms of the tokenomics that is put in place, in terms of creating the right community and social media sentiment that's required, having the right backing of investors and KOLs, and also understanding that whenever you're building in KOLs, they can only amplify the message for you. They will
Mm-hmm.
not build that narrative. They will not make your airdrop or token launch successful. What will
Mm-hmm.
is a solid token narrative, a solid
Mm-hmm.
project, and if it's a product, then a great product. Which
Right.
functions, works well, which was in the case of Jupiter. In the Solana ecosystem, they did a wonderful airdrop. Of course, there were some hiccups. A wonderful token launch airdrop came along with it. There were some hiccups, but there was the correct sentiment was being formed, right? Because the product usage had seen, the users were liking the product that they were using. It was coming off of an ecosystem where there was a lot of support from Solana Foundation for that
Mm-hmm.
project. And the one thing that I saw with Meow, who was the founder of Jupiter, doing was that he was out there. You
Mm-hmm.
would just feel that, hey, it's not this team of hundreds of people that's building it. It's this one person, and that personal connectivity felt so real, because I remember going and posting something about Jupiter, in a question in under a Reddit thread, and in just the next day, I see somebody. I don't know if it was actually Meow or someone from Meow's account respond with a long answer explaining everything that I'd asked for, and I was super
Mm-hmm.
impressed. I am like, now this is a project that's really serious about their token launch and in their airdrop, because they're covering all bases, and they're covering
Mm-hmm.
the bases with the right extent of focus that they should. So that's one
Yeah.
thing that I would say. Now, talking about intangibles, I think I loved the way Hyperliquid, and I had the opportunity to intimately understand the product and work with them, because Octo, which is the DeFi subsidiary of CoinDCX, it's the only product out there which has built a mobile native DEX, as in you can trade through a mobile app. Largely, all of them are out there in the market are browser extensions. And our
Yeah.
entire futures product is built on Hyperliquid's APIs. So basically, what
Mm-hmm.
that means is that when you are trading, or when you are placing futures trades on Octo's futures products, you're actually placing it on Hyperliquid. And whatever
Mm-hmm.
Hyperliquid users are eligible for, you
Mm-hmm.
would be getting those rewards as well. And the one
Mm-hmm.
thing that they really did beautifully was they were so confident of their product. For a
Mm-hmm.
company with zero venture investors to pull off a $1.7 billion airdrop, it's no easy feat. The only
Right.
ecosystem they were the biggest airdrop. I mean, only Arbitrum had done a dollar 1.6 billion airdrop, and we all know how big and well funded Arbitrum ecosystem is, and they've been a long term player in this space as well. But what was
Mm-hmm.
really well done with Hyperliquid was that they fleshed out a lot of variables. They wrinkled out those variables and they brought it to a standard foundation model. That hey,
Mm-hmm.
what do we do? What is really important for us? What's really important for us? That is our product is the best DEX out there. What's really
Mm-hmm.
important for us that hey, people who are trading on us, who are using our product, are well rewarded. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
KOLs who are yapping about us on Twitter. It's not the content creators who are talking. It's not the projects, even for that matter, who are building on our APIs. It is truly the traders who are trading on the product that get the maximum value, and that's how they were able to allocate 30% of their entire economic value to be given back to community in terms of airdrop. So those thought processes are extremely important. It may sound really simple, but Octo is
Mm-hmm.
also set to do a token launch, and I was part for a while,
Mm-hmm.
of the token launching and the token launching team, where we would constantly think about, hey, what does our marketing look like? What does community building for this look like? What does developer community and
Mm-hmm.
initiatives for this look like? And we would often end up digressing around a lot of things because every campaign, you know, every shining thing seems like gold at that point. I'm like, hey, this campaign worked for this project. Why should we try this? But then if you
Mm-hmm.
have these foundational frameworks really well fleshed out, the
Mm-hmm.
elimination and prioritizing becomes really simple, which I think are extremely important for any airdropping team because there will be thousands of things that will entice you in the process. But if you
Mm-hmm.
want your airdrop to make a difference and to actually yield the kind of value in terms of the brand building, in terms of the TVL, in terms of the ecosystem building that you are looking at, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely important that you know who are you
Absolutely.
really focusing on, what is your community, what are the different types of members of your community, which member is extremely important. um, you have to tier your members out there. You have to look at, hey, where do my investors really lie in this? Are they coming
Mm-hmm.
for my users? Are they coming after my employees? All
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah.
So this, and every framework for every airdropping or token launching project will be different. So it has to be done with sort of utmost honesty, and not just honesty, but also a very strong work ethic. Because largely, if you'll see the projects and the airdrops and the token launches that haven't worked, were
Mm-hmm.
because either the hearts of the teams were not in the right place, which would essentially mean a rug pull happened, or that they didn't really understand that
Mm-hmm.
what their product and what their community wanted. They probably took up another project's campaign and tried to sort of contextualize for themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a recipe for disaster, at least in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I hear you. I hear you. And thank you. And we are up. We are over the time at this time, and I think we'll have to bring you back and pick your brain a little bit more. A lot of information and good information for anybody who's thinking to either learn, to build, or to just be part of the community. What to look for, what to do, and how to do it is something that Aditi is very effectively answered today. And I really appreciate her being on the show today. And we'll definitely look to bring her back, have the conversations with her again. Thank you so much, Aditi. It's been it's I've actually saw you at one of the events in Bangalore. Now didn't get to meet because I was running away to talk at an event, and you were talking somewhere else. And it's pleasure to actually host you today and have this chat, though it is in a different context. But I would look forward to chatting with you. And thank you so much for being here today. And everybody who's logged in or probably listening to us later on, um, you can reach out to Aditi on her channels, and you can reach out to us, Solvers, on our social media channels. Look forward to the updates coming soon, and I will see you again, or one of my other hosts will see you again for the season 3, chapter 5, in 2 weeks from now. Thank you, Aditi. Thank you so much. We're going offline. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kavita, and
Thank you.